The drop pod screamed as it hit the upper atmosphere. Metal groaned against the heat. Inside the cramped steel box, red emergency lights spun in circles. Bax gripped his safety harness until his knuckles turned white. He was a Ritoxi cadet, thin and tall, built for low-gravity space stations. This violent descent was tearing him apart. Across from him, 2 other aliens from the same species vomited into their suits. Cade Vance sat in the corner. He chewed a piece of gum. His heart rate monitor showed a steady beat. He looked bored. The pod thrusters fired late. The impact felt like a hammer blow. The vessel slammed into the ground, bounced once, and skidded through dense vegetation. Mud and crushed branches sprayed against the viewports. The pod finally stopped with a loud hiss of cooling engines. Silence filled the small cabin. Then the alarm started. Bax tapped his wrist computer frantically. The screen flashed a bright, angry red. Bioscan complete. Hazard level. Extreme. Helmets on. Bax shouted. His voice cracked with fear. The error is 90% fatal to standard physiology. Gravity is 1.5 times standard. We are dead if we breach the seal. The rear hatch blew open with an explosive charge. Smoke poured out. Outside, the world was a nightmare of purple and black. Massive trees twisted toward the sky like broken fingers. The air was thick with yellow pollen that drifted like fog. It was hot, humid, and heavy. Cade Vance stood up. He unbuckled his harness and walked to the open hatch. He wore only his standard fatigues and light chest armor. He reached for his helmet. "Vance, stop!" Bax yelled. "The pathogens will melt your lungs." Cade ignored him. He twisted the lock on his neck ring. The helmet hissed and came off. Cade held it under his arm and stepped out into the mud. He took a deep breath. He held the air in his chest and exhaled slowly. "Smells like wet dog and sulfur," Cade said. He cracked his neck. Fresh air, finally. Bax and the other Ritoxi cadets huddled at the hatch. They kept their full environmental suits sealed tight. Their sensors screened warnings every second. "How are you standing?" Bax asked. He stepped onto the mud, and his knees buckled under the high gravity. The pressure alone should crush your spine. Cade looked around the jungle. He kicked a thick, purple vine. The vine recoiled and hissed like a snake. Cade laughed. "Gravity is fine," Cade said. "Just heavy enough to make it a workout." Bax checked his tactical scanner. His eyes went wide behind his visor. The screen filled with red dots. "Movement," Bax whispered. 50 distinct signatures. They are closing in on our position. Large biologicals, predators. The jungle made a sound. It was a low, chittering noise that came from every direction. The purple leaves rustled, even though there was no wind. Cade pulled a large machete from the magnetic lock on his thigh. The metal blade gleamed in the dim light. "Let them come," Cade said. He pointed toward a distant peak that spewed black smoke into the sky. "We head for the volcano. Looks like good terrain for a hike." "That is insane," Bax said. "We need to wait for the extraction ship." The instructor said this was a navigation drill. "They will pick us up in 10 minutes. Cade looked at the sky. He frowned. A jagged streak of fire cut through the clouds. It was not a meteor. It was falling debris. Bax tuned his radio to the fleet channel. He expected to hear the calm voice of the flight master. Instead, a frantic burst of static filled his helmet. "Mayday. Taking heavy ground fire. They are waiting for us." "We are going to." The transmission cut to a sharp whine, then silence. Cade watched the burning wreckage of their extraction ship disappear behind the tree line. The ground shook as it crashed miles away. "Drill is over," Cade said. He tightened his grip on the machete. Welcome to spring break. The jungle did not just grow. It hunted. The squad moved in a tight wedge formation. The purple mud sucked at their boots with every step. The air was so wet that water condensed on the alien cadet's visors instantly. Bax held his laser rifle tight against his chest. His suit sensors blinked orange. Magnetic interference was high. "Hold formation," Bax ordered. His voice shook. "Keep scanning." A thick vine dropped from the canopy. It looked like a hanging cable. It coiled around the leg of a cadet named Rix. Rix screamed. The vine tightened. It pulled him upward with the strength of a hydraulic winch. The metal on Rix's leg armor buckled with a sick crunching sound. "Fire!" Bax yelled. 3 cadets raised their rifles. They pulled the triggers. The weapons clicked and sparked. Small puffs of ozone leaked from the barrels, but no beams fired. The humidity had shorted the focusing lenses. Rix was 5 feet in the air now. He flailed wildly. Cade Vance stepped forward. He did not look panicked. He swung his machete in a clean, brutal arc. The blade bit through the thick vegetable fiber. Rix fell into the mud with a heavy splash. The severed vine thrashed on the ground like a dying eel, spraying acidic sap. "Stop shooting," Cade said. He wiped the sap off his blade onto his pants. "Your toys are broken. Use your knives." The squad scrambled to their feet. They were breathing hard. The high gravity made every movement an effort. Their ration packs were light, but their energy was fading. Cade stopped by a massive, twisting root. He hacked a chunk out of it. Clear liquid dripped from the white inner wood. He caught it in his hand and drank. "Don't," Max warned. "That is unsterilized. It's water," Cade said. "Better than dying of thirst when your suit batteries die. Drink up." Before Bax could argue, the ground shook. This was not a vine. This was heavy. A roar tore through the trees. Leaves stripped away as a massive shape barreled into the clearing. It was a reptile, 6 meters tall, with scales that looked like rock plates. "Heavy weapons up," Bax screamed. The heavy weapons specialist, a large alien named Crawl, leveled his plasma cannon. He fired. A ball of green fire hit the beast, but the magnetic field disrupted the plasma. It splashed harmlessly against the creature's shoulder. The beast charged. It slammed into Crawl. The cadet flew backward and hit a tree with a sound like snapping dry wood. Crawl slumped over, his armor shattered. The beast turned toward Bax. Its jaws opened wide, revealing rows of serrated teeth. Cade dropped his pack. He sprinted at the beast. He did not run away. He ran toward it. Cade leaped off a rock and grabbed the bony ridge on the creature's neck. The beast thrashed, trying to shake him off. Cade held on. He drove his machete deep into the soft skin behind the creature's left ear. The beast roared in pain and jerked left, away from the pain. "Move!" Cade shouted to the squad. He twisted the blade. The beast stumbled blindly toward the edge of a steep ravine. Cade jumped clear just as the monster lost its footing. It tumbled over the edge, crashing through branches until it hit the rocks far below. Cade rolled in the mud and stood up. He was covered in slime and dirt. He checked his pulse. It was barely elevated. Bax ran to Crawl. The heavy weapons specialist was unconscious but alive. "We need medevac," Bax said. "He has internal injuries." "No evac coming," Cade said. He walked over to where the beast had emerged from the brush. Something shiny lay half buried in the dirt. Cade dug it out. It was a helmet. Standard Academy issue, but the faceplate was melted. Bax looked at it. Did the beast do that? Cade turned the helmet over. The back was scorched black. He ran a finger over the damage. "No," Cade said. His voice dropped low. "Animals bite. They don't use thermal detonators." He tossed the helmet to Bax. "We aren't fighting nature anymore," Cade said. "Someone shot this cadet." The squad moved deeper into the shadows. The jungle floor changed. The soft mud turned into packed earth. Cade stopped. He held up a hand. The squad froze. The trees ahead were not broken by animals. They were cut. Clean stumps lined a wide path that disappeared into the side of a massive hill. Camouflage netting hung from the upper branches, hiding the hill from the sky. Cade crouched low. He ran his hand over a deep groove in the dirt. It was wide and patterned with heavy tread marks. "These aren't natural," Cade said. "Heavy armor." "Siege tanks." Bax crept forward. He looked at the tracks, and his face went pale. "The Academy does not use treaded vehicles. We use hovertech." "These aren't ours," Cade said. "These are Dominion." The name hung in the damp air. The Dominion was the enemy. The war was supposed to be light years away on the frontier, not here on a training world. Bax checked his datapad frantically. "This installation is not on the charts. Command said this sector was uninhabited." "Command lied," Cade said. His voice was cold. "They didn't drop us here for navigation. We are bait. They wanted us to trip the sensors so they could find this base." A high-pitched whine cut through the humidity. It sounded like a dentist's drill magnified 1,000 times. "Cover!" Cade yelled. 3 black shapes dropped from the canopy. They were drones, sleek and spherical, with single red eyes glowing in the center. Hunter-killers. The drones spun. Gatling lasers popped out of their sides. Red beams sliced through the leaves. Dirt exploded where the squad had been standing seconds before. "My rifle is still jammed." Rix shouted from behind a log. "Forget the rifles," Cade ordered. "Give me your survival kits. Now." The cadets threw their packs to him. Cade huddled behind a thick rock. The laser fire chipped away at the stone, showering him with hot dust. He worked fast. He ripped the power cells out of the emergency beacons. He twisted the wires together and shoved them into a canister of compressed oxygen. "They are flanking us." Bax screamed. One drone drifted around the side of the rock. Its red eye focused on Cade. Cade armed the improvised bomb. He stood up and threw it like a baseball. The canister spun through the air. It hit the lead drone. Cade dived into the mud. The explosion was deafening. A shockwave of blue fire rippled through the clearing. The power cells overloaded instantly, vaporizing the lead drone and sending shrapnel tearing through the other 2. Metal rained down on the squad. Smoke filled the clearing. Silence returned, except for the crackle of burning electronics. Cade stood up. He walked toward the wreckage. One of the drones was destroyed, but behind it, a figure groaned. It was not a machine. It was a man in gray combat armor, a Dominion scout. He had been controlling the drones from the tree line. Shrapnel had pierced his leg. Cade grabbed the scout by the chest plate and slammed him against a tree. He held the machete to the soldier's throat. "Talk," Cade said. "How many are inside?" The scout coughed blood. He looked at the young cadets with a sneer. He did not look afraid. "Enough to bury you," the scout wheezed. "You think you won? You are just the appetizer. Where is the rest of your battalion?" Cade pressed the blade harder. The scout laughed. It was a wet, gurgling sound. "They are manning the Skybreaker," the scout said. "A planetary railgun. Your rescue fleet is entering orbit right now. In 5 minutes, we will turn your ships into dust." Cade looked up. Through the break in the trees, he saw the faint contrails of Federation dropships descending from space. They were flying straight into the kill zone. Cade stared at the sky. White lines of dropships sank through the clouds. "They do not know," Bax said. His voice shook. "They will if we move," Cade said. He wiped the scout's blood off his machete. "Tracks lead to the gun. We follow." They pushed through the last trees and saw the hill. Camo netting covered steel. Gun towers turned slowly. A tank idled before a huge blast door. 2 Dominion guards walked their loop, rifles ready. Bax checked his timer. 4 minutes. Cade scanned the rock. Hot air hit his face. An exhaust vent glowed high on the wall, spilling steam. "There," Cade said. "We climb in." Rick stared. "We will cook in there. We cook later," Cade said. "If the gun fires, no one leaves." He turned to Crawl. "You hit the front. Make them look at you." Crawl laughed once, short and hard. "About time." He stepped into the open and fired his cracked plasma cannon at the door. Green light washed over steel. Alarms screamed. Gun towers snapped toward him. The tank turret turned. "Run," Cade snapped. He sprinted for the wall. High gravity dragged at his legs. He jumped, grabbed the vent lip, and hauled himself up. Heat burned his palms. Bax jumped and slipped. Rix shoved him higher. Cade caught his arm and pulled him into the vent. Rix jumped next as a cannon shot ripped the ground where he had stood. Below, Crawl kept shooting. One blast hit the tank. The turret blew off in a fireball. A tower beam punched through Crawl's chest. He dropped and did not move. Rix choked back a sob. Cade grabbed his arm. "We finish," Cade said. "Then he counts." They crawled through the vent. Metal glowed dull red. Air burned their lungs. The roar of power grew louder. Cade kicked out a grate and dropped into a steel corridor. Red alarms flashed. Sirens wailed. Dominion troops raced past a junction toward the front. They ran the other way, boots ringing on grated floor, until they hit a bulkhead with hazard stripes. The deck thudded under them like a slow drum. Bax slapped the pad. His suit spat code. The door slid open. The Skybreaker control room spread out before them. A wide shaft in the center glowed blue from deep below. Consoles circled it. Screens showed the sky full of dropships and cruisers. A tall officer in black armor turned toward them. Cade fired first. The officer spun away as a console blew apart. Dominion soldiers grabbed rifles. Energy bolts filled the air. Rix ran for cover. A shot hit his side. He hit the floor and lay still. Bax dove behind a station and jammed his hands on the keys. "Gun at full charge," he yelled. 30 seconds. "Shut it down," Cade shouted. "Only command I can send is overload," Bax cried. "Core will blow." "We die with it." The officer rushed Cade with a long knife. Steel met steel as it slammed into the machete. "Do it," Cade said through his teeth. Bax hit the command. The blue glow flared white. A harsh voice boomed. "Core overload." 10 seconds. The deck shook. Panels ripped free. Fire burst from the shaft. Cade smashed his forehead into the officer's face and cut his throat. He grabbed Bax and ran for the door. Bulkheads slammed down up the corridor. The last one was sliding shut. They dived for the gap as white light rushed toward them. White light hit like a punch. Cade did not feel the ground at first. Just heat, dust, and a long, sharp ringing in his ears. Then pain rushed in. His chest hurt. His back burned. Something hard pressed across his legs. He forced his eyes open. The corridor was twisted metal and smoke. Red strobe lights flashed weakly through the haze. "Bax!" he tried to shout. It came out as a dry croak. He pushed at the heavy slab on his legs. It scraped over him an inch. Pain flared down his side. He gritted his teeth and shoved again until his boots were free. A hand twitched near his shoulder. Bax lay under a fallen beam. His visor was cracked. Blood ran from his nose inside the helmet. Cade crawled to him. He slid his shoulders under the beam. His arms shook. Heat bit into his skin through the armor. "Do not die now," Cade gasped. He gave one hard lift and dragged Bax clear. The beam slammed down and buckled the deck where Bax's head had been. The bunker groaned. Pipes burst and sprayed steam. The floor tilted under them. "We have to move," Cade said. Bax tried to stand. His legs failed. Cade hauled him up by the harness and half dragged, half pushed him down the broken hall. A blast door ahead had jammed open by less than a meter. Daylight glared through the gap. Cade dropped to his stomach and slid under, armor scraping. He turned, grabbed Bax's arms, and pulled. Bax screamed once as his shoulder caught the jagged edge. Then he was through. They rolled out onto bare rock. The hill was gone. The jungle around it was black glass and smoking stumps. A round crater stretched where the bunker had been. In its center, blue fire still licked at chunks of molten steel. Above them, the sky was full of ships. Federation cruisers hung low, hulls scorched, some missing hull sections. Dropships roared through the smoke, engines keening. One spiraled down trailing fire and hit the far side of the horizon. A dull shock rolled under Cade's boots a moment later. The skybreaker barrel lay snapped in half on the rim of the crater. It was silent. Bax stared at it with wide eyes. His voice was thin. "We did it." Cade did not answer. His gaze went higher, to the black scars on the belly of the nearest cruiser. Engines thundered from behind. A dropship dropped through the smoke and flared its thrusters. Dust and ash blasted across the rock. The ramp slammed down. Marines in dark armor rushed out, rifles up, scanning. "Contact, 2 Fendleys," one shouted. "Cadet tags confirmed." "Get them aboard." Hands grabbed Cade and Bax. Foam sprayed over burns. A medic jammed a mask over Cade's face. Cool air flooded his lungs. "We have others," Cade choked. "Crawl, Rix, the squad." The medic's jaw clenched. She did not meet his eyes. "We are still pulling from the field," she said. "Hang on." They were pulled up the ramp. The dropship lifted. The crater shrank below. Black smoke rose in thick columns. Cade saw other impact sites, other broken pods, little white sheets over still shapes. His fingers dug into the stretcher frame until his knuckles hurt. The dropship locked into a carrier bay with a heavy clang. The ramp opened onto a hangar full of noise. Alarms beeped. Welding torches showered sparks over open hull plates. Crews ran in all directions, pushing carts loaded with ammo crates and burned armor. They rolled Cade down a narrow metal corridor. The deck hummed under him. Bulkhead signs flashed in red. Casualty, flight, armory. Later, he sat on a bunk in a small recovery room. Bandages wrapped his ribs and shoulders. His machete lay on the table beside him, cleaned but still nicked from the fight. Outside the thick window, the Deathworld spun slowly, clouds still lit by fires below. Bax lay in the next bunk, pale, eyes closed, chest rising in short jerks. A monitor beeped above him. A wall screen blinked on. An Academy Admiral appeared. His uniform was perfect. The air behind him was clear and still. "Cadet Vance," the Admiral said. "You and Cadet Bax disabled a major enemy asset and saved multiple capital ships. The Academy notes your performance." Cade stared at the image. "How many cadets dead?" he asked. The Admiral paused. Data flickered over his lens. 47 losses, he said. "Within projected limits. The operation is a strategic success." "We were bait," Cade said. His voice was flat. "You dropped us on a gun you already suspected. We needed live confirmation under real fire," the Admiral said. "This is war. War trains hard. The survivors are stronger." The screen cut off. The room hummed. Outside, a row of small white capsules slid along a rail toward a launch bay. Cade knew what was inside them. Bax opened one eye. "We saved them," he whispered. "So it matters, right?" Cade did not answer. His jaw locked. His hand shook as he reached for his machete. He stopped halfway and let it fall. His bedside terminal chimed. New orders flashed up. Advanced field placement. Frontline unit. Target zone. Class-5 theater. Report in 12 hours. Under it, a short note. Spring break is over. His throat tightened. A second icon blinked. Unauthorized signal. The system tried to block it. Failed. A new message filled the screen. No sender name. Just a Dominion symbol and a line of text. "We saw you in the bunker. Cade Vance, Under that was his full file: age, scores, kill count, face, status, priority target. The carrier engines rumbled as it turned toward a new jump point. The burning planet slid out of view. Cade stared at the words until his vision blurred. His chest ached, not from the burns. The war was not just out there anymore. Now, it was looking straight back at him.